clean contact too.
With your iron swing, look at your fundamentals here. Got a good setup. I like the shaft lean that you have here in line with your left arm. Good stable wide stance. Looks good. You keep your head steady as you go back. You don't have too much sway, just a little bit, but not too bad at all. Got a good load right here. I love this angle that you have in the shaft and the arm. That's a good power angle on your downswing, so it indicates you haven't cast the club. I'm starting to see the legs move to the left side. Now the pros would have a little bit more weight on their left foot at this point. They would have more of their body on top of that left foot at impact. One of the advantages to hybrids is that you can just kind of skid through the ground. You don't have to take that deep divot as much and still hit the ball solid. The pros who have different clubs, they would have to have a little bit more divot, which means that they would have to hit the ball a lot more on the downswing. So they would need to come in a little bit steeper, which means the low point of their swing will have to be in front of the golf ball. The divot is in front of the golf ball. And in order to have that low point in front of the ball, you have to have your center of your body mass in front of the golf ball.
Might have picked it up from watching Lee Westwood, but if you watch, he goes down and it goes pretty deep. Look at this. That's a cool looking divot.
On the left is Tiger Woods during the 2012 U.S. Open. This is video I took of him when I was there. You can see I've drawn that blue arrow from the center of his ankle, and you can see that that's going almost right through the center of his belt buckle. So the pros will have a lot more weight on their left side at impact. They're hitting down into the golf ball. They hit the ball before they hit the ground. Now, if you do not get enough weight to the left side, you're going to come in a little bit too shallow, and you can hit the ball thin, or you can even hit behind the golf ball and hit the ball fat. So when you fail to get your weight on your left side at impact, you'll hit both fat and thin shots. And you can even top the ball because you would reach your low point of the golf swing before you actually arrive at the golf ball, and you actually hit the ball more on the upswing, and that causes the topping of the golf ball.
That was a good one.
Now, we spent most of our session on the driver, and you have a good golf swing. The only thing I really changed was your setup position for ball position. On the right was what you were doing. You had the ball a little bit further back in your stance, and what I prefer is to have it a little bit more forward and the ball teed up a little higher. You had mentioned that the rubber tee that we were using on the mat was slightly higher than you use on the course. And in fact, you've experimented with teeing it even lower than normal. And so I suggested that you tee it higher than normal. It's important to swing up on the golf ball, and in order to do that, your low point has to be behind the golf ball. When the ball's on the ground, you want the low point in front of the ball, but when the ball's on a tee, you want the low point behind the ball. So the ball has to go more forward in your stance. And when you swing up, you'll get more distance without having to increase club head speed, because you'll reduce the amount of backspin on the ball as it flies through the air. And if you have excessive backspin hitting that air current, it slows the ball down, and it causes it to balloon and create too much lift, and it doesn't penetrate through the air. You hit a lot of good drives after this change, and In fact, you had mentioned that when you went on the course and played, the first 2 holes you hit really good drives as well. But then later in the round, you started getting inconsistent. Obviously, the drive that was hit well was different than the swing that you used for the drive that you hit inconsistently. Now, what that change was, did you change your tempo? Did you go back to having the old ball position and not the new ball position? That's where the practice comes in, where you, in a practice session with repetitive practice and training, you make sure that you repeat these changes. Repeat the same comfortable tempo that I saw. You repeat the ball position that we worked on. You repeat the height of the tee position that we worked on. And you're always going to have a percentage of shots that don't go well, even when you are repeating all of these things. But we want a higher percentage of good shots through this repetition.